This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on
November 7th, 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week I'm flying solo again, and I apologize that we were not here last week for you. It was the professor's birthday, and I took some needed respite. However, to start the night off, AI meets defense. Fortinet, SentinelOne, and CrowdStrike roll out next-gen protections. In a landmark press release this past Thursday, three of the largest security vendors, Fortinet, SentinelOne, and CrowdStrike, announced AI-powered tools designed to defend artificial intelligence workloads. Fortinet unveiled a next-generation firewall appliance that can understand AI traffic patterns. SentinelOne released an autonomous endpoint detection engine that learns from model drift, and CrowdStrike announced AI Guard, which automatically flags anomalous inference requests across the cloud. The announcement came after the industry survey found that over 60% of enterprises already run at least one machine learning workload, and that, quote, model theft, data poisoning, and inference time evasion are now top-tier threats. These vendors claim the new features can reduce false positives by up to 30%, while cutting response time from hours to mere minutes. This matters to all of us today because AI is becoming a high-value target. Model theft or sabotage can cost billions in lost revenue or brand damage. The arms race in cybersecurity now includes protecting the intelligence itself, not just the data it processes, and this is a big concern. And many legacy security stacks are still built on rule-based logic that struggle with concept drift and AI-driven defenses, and this now promises better adaptability to evolving threats. I'm really on board with all of this if it all works the way it's supposed to. So what can or should you be doing about this or because of this? Well, assess whether your machine learning workloads are exposed to the same attack vectors, such as model theft or data poisoning. And if you don't know if they are, reach out to your SME in AI and find out. And if your SME doesn't know, seek advice from somewhere else. Upgrade or add AI-aware firewalls and endpoint agents to support dynamic threat models, and audit inference traffic and set up anomaly detection dashboards specifically targeted at this type of stuff for your machine learning workloads and your artificial intelligence inference workloads. Train security teams on new vendor tools and incorporate them into incident response playbooks. But as always, do not go and get any tool off the shelf and just add it to your stack, because 1,000 tools that do something doesn't mean that your 3-person team can use all 1,000 tools equally, right? It's all about balancing that out and make sure that you are able to effectively use what's been deployed. I think more and more leaders, well, not all of them, but I think a lot of them think, well, if I just buy the new thing, right? If I just buy the new thing, then everything's going to be fine because my team's got it. Well, your team has this plus 17 other things they're trying to figure out how to use, or 3 other things they're trying to figure out how to use. Even with automation, now they got to tie it all together. Remember, people are still in the loop for a reason. Make sure the people can actually use the tools you're purchasing. Otherwise, you're wasting money and time. So yeah, all good. I mean, when 3 vendors basically on the same day announce 3 different products, not even necessarily competing products, but 3 different products that probably have a level of overlap to them. I haven't looked at all of them in depth. That's a good sign that the industry has acknowledged the concern, acknowledged the threat on that vector, and is doing something about it. I think that's an all net positive. In our next story, binary breadcrumbs correlating malware samples with honeypot logs and using PowerShell. A guest diary from SANS shows how to use PowerShell scripts to map real malware samples onto honeypot logs, revealing attack chains that otherwise would be invisible. The author demonstrated a pipeline that ingests raw telemetry, normalizes it, and correlates signatures with high confidence matches. So this matters because honeypots are often underutilized. This approach turns them into living threat libraries for real world detection. Super important, right? Lots of us have set up honeypots, the professor included. And do you do anything with the data that you get in your honeypot? I know some organizations do, and they build a corpus of knowledge based on it, but not everyone does. They use it as almost like a sinkhole, right? This is a reason, an example on how that knowledge could be really put to use. What could you be doing because of this? Well, build a PowerShell script based on this to ingest your own honeypot logs. Test the correlation engine against known samples and integrate your results into your SMIE EM dashboards, right? This is all good. Like, this just can help feed the cycle of defense for your attack. And if you have LLMs in that defense stack, now they know more. Now, especially if you're using a RAG of some sort, like a remote augmented retrieval generation, that'd be great, right? Now your AI has more knowledge to do more with based on what's attacked your network, not just general knowledge that's just out there, which is not bad. Don't get me wrong. That's not something that I want to say you don't use, but now you're getting more specific, more tailored knowledge into your stack that can help defend the type of threats that you face. And that's a good thing. In our next story, password horrors at the Louvre. Everyone, if you haven't heard about this by now, this is unbelievable. So unbelievable. I would almost say, yeah, why not? Right? Like, of course. So, an investigation piece revealed that the Louvre's core security system used a trivial password. The breach that happened because, in part, of using this trivial password was 102 million in jewels, and it showed how easily weak credentials can expose critical infrastructure. The article, or articles at this point, walk through what went wrong, best practices to consider, and recommendations, and highlights the cost of complacency. So, what was the password? Well, if you haven't heard by now, the password that the security system used was in all caps, was just letters, and was Louvre. And that's it. No numbers, no symbols, no upper or lowercase. Not even really that long, 6 characters long, very easy to defeat and to figure out just with a rainbow table, honestly. Not even that you would necessarily need it, because that would be something simple to test. Why? I have a hard time trying to understand why a place that is responsible for protecting such valuable human artifacts had its security so crippled by, let's just call it, laziness. Absolute laziness. It's really terrible. So, if you're concerned about what you should do or why it matters for you, well, password hygiene still remains important. Yes, multi-factor is here, should have been used. Yes, passkeys are coming into their own. There's debate over how valuable or how good they are because of what can happen. Password managers exist. It's foundational still to this day. Even high-profile institutions are falling prey to simple credential reuse. Be careful, people. If you're going to reuse a password, which I don't recommend you do, but if you're going to reuse a password, multi-factor, hard tokens, rotating secondary factor, something that makes it a little more difficult. I can tell you, Professor constantly has my Microsoft account being attacked over and over and over again, hundreds of times a day. I don't even get all the alerts anymore. Microsoft is like figuring out or filtering or something, but I can count on all my digits, plus probably my friends as well, how many times my Microsoft Authenticator attempts to authenticate because someone tried to log into my account. Now, I know they do not have my password. I know they do not. It is a new password, and yet they're just trying to log in with Authenticator is what I think is happening. I'm just glad that I don't just approve every time I see that come up, um, especially because it's toxic at this point. Be careful out there. Let's see. What else do we have for you this evening? Well, Um, would you still use a TP-Link router? This past week, CNET featured interviews from 4 professionals about the growing list of Chinese-made routers, including TP-Link, that have been linked to backdoor vulnerabilities. The experts weighed in on whether to keep or replace these devices and shared mitigation steps like hardening firmware, disabling unused services, and monitoring suspicious traffic. And while it probably came up in the interviews, the U.S. government is thinking of banning TP routers or all TP networking, TP-Link networking, I think, in the United States. Now, by ban, it could be banned for sale if you already have it in your stack. It's doubtful that anything could happen to you except the potential vulnerabilities. Um, so it's just something to keep in mind. It matters though because IoT devices are often the weakest link. This is not so much necessarily IoT-ish, I guess, networking IoT, sure. Many enterprises still deploy inexpensive routers without adequate security posture checks. Very true. Um, I would say, dumb switches, as long as you're able to check you have one of your links when coming off of that switch can show you where traffic is being shuffled off to, you're probably fine. But it's not so much the dumb switch that's the problem. It's the managed switch or smarter or devices such as gateway routers or whatnot. Even at the home user prosumer level, I would be very concerned. You should be conducting inventory audits of all network edge devices. Replace or re-secure your TP leading equipment and apply strict firmware update policies and network segmentation. The big problem here, though, is cost. Right now, maybe this is one of those potential positive side effects of the tariffs, where TP-Link devices will have their general cost raised inside the United States. Not for everybody else, but inside the United States, to where US based routers and networking equipment, which generally has costed more, not necessarily because quote unquote better quality, it just costs more. Um, there may be a more competitive landscape for them to work in. Maybe that would be one of the net positives. I'm sure if Cyber Cowboy was here, he would have something to say about that as well. I won't channel my inner cowboy, though. That's just not going to happen. And in our last story, public transit gets a cyber hardening boost. It was reported by ABC News this past week that Norwegian public transit operators have announced tighter security requirements after a test on Chinese-made electric buses revealed the manufacturer could remotely disable them. The article detailed how new protocols will enforce firmware integrity, secure over-the-air updates, and isolate control panels from passenger Wi-Fi. Wow. If that's not catching somebody with their hand in the cookie jar, I don't know what is. This matters because critical infrastructure is increasingly being delivered via off-the-shelf components, and any backdoor can jeopardize public safety. I can only imagine the type of shenanigans that would be used in this type of scenario. Wow. Uh, and this is like really incredible to me. This is really kind of shocking that they would put that into. I could see I don't like having, some sort of manufacturer access to a device. I kind of get that, but having the ability to remotely disable the device, that's kind of frightening to me, honestly. Although I can see more and more manufacturers doing that all the time, including some stuff that's happening in U.S. auto industry that is definitely going to cause a lot of kerfuffle moving forward. More to come on that in the future. What could you or should you be doing because of this? Well, review your supplier contracts, enforce firmware integrity checks, and separate operational networks from existing external connections or new connections to mitigate remote control risks. This has happened time and time again, right? So this is just a modern example, but anytime you have a level of infrastructure that is critical, whether it be actually what we define as critical infrastructure or your critical infrastructure. having it connected to your internet connection is just playing Russian roulette with your data or with your network's security. And every time that an adversary has been able to gain access via the internet, it will find a way to get to your operational network. So having some layer of bifurcation between that network and the internet is probably a good thing if your environment requires you to do so. You could be paranoid and do it. That's fine. But if your requirement really has sensitive data, or in this case, is critical infrastructure, yeah, you want to separate that from the internet. You want to have that bifurcated in some way that makes sense, because your exposure is just too great. Imagine if these buses were full during rush hour, although I don't know what Norwegian rush hour would look like, but let's assume it could be as bad as some of the major metropolitan areas here in the United States, and the bus is at speed and gets disabled. Now, yeah, it's going to stop. It probably will slow down to a stop, probably. But in the meantime, that bus is now offline and nothing's controlling it. That could be a big problem. That could be a huge problem. So, tonight, we have collectively emphasized defending AI workloads is no longer an optional enhancement. It is a necessity. Combine that with the need for robust password or secure access hygiene, hardening your Internet of Things devices, and securing critical infrastructure to create a more resilient security posture. Hopefully all of that's a little useful to you. If you didn't know these stories by this point, now you do. I'm the Professor of CyberRisk. That's all the news for this week. And we'll talk again soon.
If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.